Hey guys, it's Daniel. From a production standpoint, one of the most controversial aspects of Nirvana's entire history were the In Utero mixes. Steve Albini, the man who produced the record, or as he would say, recorded the record, did initial mixes that the band were on the fence about and the label did not like at all. Much of the record was subsequently remixed. I did an interview with Steve Albini where he spoke specifically about this situation and how it affected him. If you want to see that interview, it's linked below. The following is a separate quote from Steve Albini where he discusses the remixing situation. Quote, Kurt asked me about doing some remixes. I said, alright, which songs are you talking about remixing? Kurt named a few specifics, but then he said, but really we'd like to redo it all. He wanted to remix everything. Chris didn't think his bass guitar was well defined enough. There were certain songs where Kurt didn't think the vocals came out enough, but it was all subtleties. That was more evidence to me of this climate of fear he developed. They had made a great record, but the record label and all the other harpies in their life had managed to convince them that they had something to doubt. And I think Kurt was trying to articulate his position, which was that he felt uncomfortable with it. He wanted to make himself confident. He wanted to make a record that he could slam down on the table and say, listen, I know this is good, and I know your concerns about it are meaningless, so go with it. And I don't think that he felt that. He wanted to redo stuff in the hopes of getting there. My problem was that I feared a slippery slope. If we went back into the studio to remix it, it would have ended up being another situation like Nevermind, where it would have eventually been taken out of their hands. I knew if we got started on that path, it was going to be a replay of that. I called back Kurt and said, listen, if you guys want to remix some stuff, you have my blessing. The subtleties in the recording that you were talking about, you can't change some of these things without fundamentally changing the presentation of the music. I said that I just don't feel like I could do any better. From a business standpoint, that was probably a bad idea because I could have squeezed more money out of them. From a personal standpoint, I think I may not have sat well with the band that I wasn't willing to just say, yeah, I'll do it all again. But I know it was the right thing to say. I had a copy of the record before it was mastered. I saw that record at every single stage of production. I knew that if it was manipulated in any way beyond that point, some of that greatness was going to evaporate. And I just didn't want to be party to it. The dynamic range was narrowed. The stereo width was narrowed. There was a lot of mid-range EQ boost added, and the overall sound quality was softened. And the bass response was compromised to make it sound more consistent on radio and home speakers. But the way that I would describe it in non-technical terms is that they screwed it up. The end result, the record in the stores, doesn't sound all that much like the record that was made. Yes, you can screw something up by trying too hard to make it good, by going through too many steps. If you're making a cake and you want it to be perfect, and you keep putting in these little filigrees and touches of spices and ingredients, before long you have all this stuff affecting itself. You want it to make a great cake, but by continually twiddling with it, you ended up taking away some of its inherent quality.